The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. We are examining the law of addition as of now. And yes, the story. We stopped with a story when one person passed by his team, didn't say hello, and the author was unhappy about that and spoke to that person. And his final words were, "Dan," I said, "you just walked past your work. Never forget that leadership is about people." Dan cared about people and wanted to serve them as a leader. He just didn't show it. I'm told that in American Sign Language, the sign for serving is to hold the hands out in front with the palms up and to move them back and forth between the signer and the signer and the signee. And really, that is a good metaphor for the attitudes that servant leaders should possess. They should be open, trusting, caring, offering their help, and willing to be vulnerable. Leaders who add value by serving believe in their people before their people believe in them. Serve others before they are served. Mhm. We add value to others when we make ourselves more vulnerable to others. The whole idea of adding value to other people depends on the idea that you have something of value to add. You can't give what you do not possess. What do you have to give others? Can you teach skills? Can you give opportunities? Can you give insight and perspective gained through experience? None of these things comes without a price. If you have skills, you gain them through study and practice. If you have opportunities to give, you acquire them through hard work. If you possess wisdom, you gained it by intentionally evaluating the experiences you've had. The more intentional you have been in growing personally, the more you have to offer. The more you continue to pursue personal growth, the more you will continue to have to offer. We add value to others when we know and relate to what others value. Management consultant Nancy K. Austin, let me just turn this light on as well. Yeah. Says that once when she looked under the bed in her room at one of her favorite hotels, she was surprised to find a card. Let me also add more nature lights. Like this. It said, "Yes, we clean under here too," Austin said. I don't remember the lobby, or the number of chandeliers, or how many square feet of marble they cobbled together to make our underfoot experience pleasant. What she remembered was that card. The housekeeping staff had anticipated what was important to her and had served her well. That's interesting. We think of that as good customer service, and when we are clients or guests, we expect to receive it. But as leaders, we don't automatically expect to give it. But it is a key to effective leadership. As leaders, how do we know and relate to what our people value? We listen. Inexperienced leaders are quick to lead before knowing anything about the people they intend to lead. But mature leaders listen, learn, and then lead. They listen to their people's stories. They find out about their hopes and dreams. They become acquainted with their aspirations. When they pay attention to their emotions. From those things, they learn about their people. They discover what is valuable to them. And then they lead based upon what they've learned. When they do that, everybody wins: the organization, the leader, and the followers. We add value to others when we do things that God values. I already mentioned that you may want to skip this final point, but for me it's a non-negotiable. I believe that God desires us not only to treat people with respect, but also actively reach out to them and serve them. Scripture provides many examples and descriptions of how we should conduct ourselves, But here is my favorite, captured by Eugene Peterson's The Message. When he finally arrives, blazing in beauty and all his angels with him, the Son of Man will take his place on his glorious throne. Hey Brooke, what book? It's called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Okay. Then all the nations, and thank you for the like, whoever it is, others are encouraged to follow the lead and send likes my way if you enjoy me reading the book for you. Okay. Then all the nations will be arranged before him, and he will sort the people out, much as a shepherd sorts out sheep and goats, putting sheep to his right and goats to his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, quote, Enter, you who are blessed by my Father. Take what's coming to you in this kingdom. It's been ready for you since the world's foundation. And here's why. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me. Okay, end of quote. Then those sheep are going to say, Master, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and came to you? Then the king will say, I am telling the solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it to me. End of quote. That standard for my conduct influences everything I do, not just including my leadership, but especially my leadership. Because the more power I have, the greater my impact on others, for better or worse. And I always want to be someone who adds value to others, not takes it away. You should. Okay, whatever. So, yeah, I'm not a religious person, so this thing is not really for me. The passage was okay, but the problem with faith is you can have good things and bad things mingled together, and controversy is totally okay in religions, and in real life, usually it's not okay. For instance, if I make a healthy salad, I cannot add like 10 milligrams of poison and say, well, I'm balancing the healthy and the poisonous. Yeah, it doesn't work that way in real life. Or when you're driving, you cannot uh, push on two pedals at the same time. Yes, adding speed and stopping the car. It will destroy your car. Or with technology, you cannot say, well, virus is also the creation of God, so I will allow virus to remain in my laptop. It will destroy your laptop, right? So controversy is problematic in real life. In religious scripture, especially in Abrahamic religions like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, their books are so full of controversy. In one place, Jesus says, I came in peace. In another place, he says, I came to bring sword. We know the famous testament, thou shalt not kill. But then Abraham brings those tablets with the testaments, yeah, and it is written, thou shalt not kill. And then Abraham himself orders people to take swords and kill those who were worshipping that golden idol. See the controversy. Um, so it's like you do whatever you want, and you can cherry pick whichever verse you want and justify your behavior like that. Outdoor Twins says hi. Hi there, twins. How are you guys doing? So that's why I don't like religion and I don't like controversy. You see? Because in real life, it's destructive. You cannot say, thou shalt not kill, and then order your followers, go and kill your father, brother, and son, whoever it is that denied the true God. It's controversial, so it's problematic. Anyway. Yeah, but we could cover that maybe during some philosophical talks later. And if among my followers there are people who are interested in having lives together, I'm open to that. We can use YouTube, we can use TikTok, and have interesting conversations around religion, philosophy, human life, etc. Okay, just let me know. If you subscribe to my channel, if you check out the About section, there are links. You can reach out to me. Okay. Next subchapter. It's not just about the chicken. When I moved my companies and my family to Atlanta in 1997, it wasn't long before I received a call from Dan Cathy, the president of Chick-fil-A, the privately held national restaurant chain. He had a question for me. John, how can we help you and your organization? I was surprised. How often does a company that's bigger and stronger than you come seemingly out of the blue and offer a hand to help? But that's what Dan did. He brought together 200 top business people from the Atlanta area and hosted a lunch where he introduced me and offered me a chance to speak to them for 40 minutes. It gave me instant credibility that it would have taken me years to earn, if indeed I could have earned it at all without his help. He added tremendous value to me and my organization. What I discovered as I got to know Dan, through it Cathy, his father and founder of Chick-fil-A, and their entire organization is that an attitude of service pervades everything they do. And for that reason, along with their dedication to excellence, I have to say that Chick-fil-A is one of the companies that I most greatly admire and respect. Okay, before moving on, what I heard about Chick-fil-A is they are conservative, and there was some controversy around LGBT rights, yeah, and their LGBT customers. I'm not from the US, and I moved in recently, just like around a couple of months ago. So if you guys know this story, what happened, what was that story about, please write in the comments section. I'll read it and I'll comment around that. Okay. In 2005, when I hosted Exchange, a weekend leadership growth experience for executives, I took the participants to Chick-fil-A's headquarters south of Atlanta. Everyone got to see the company's operations, meet Truett Cathy, and hear Dan Cathy speak about the organization. He shared many eye-opening comments that revealed their dedication to service and adding value to their employees and customers. For example, Dan was preparing that day to camp out with customers for the 19th time on the eve of a new restaurant opening. He said that he has gotten to know customers and their desires in a way he never could before he started that practice. Outdoor travesties. What you reading? I'm reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. Okay, a book on leadership. That's it. Dan also talked about the company's desire to give second mile service. Because Chick-fil-A is a privately held company and is much smaller than McDonald's, KFC, and many of its other competitors, he believes the company will compete and win, not through strength but through service. For that reason, the company is teaching etiquette to its employees, many of whom are teenagers. Dan joked, quote, "There's evidence that the words etiquette and fast food have never been mentioned in the same sentence before." Okay. But Dan's approach to leadership became clear when he prepared to give every person at Exchange what he had called the Leadership Relationship Development Tool. Dan said, and there is quote from Dan. Now this is a 9-inch, sorry. This is a 9-inch 100% horsehair shoe brush. This is an industrial strength shoe brush. It's the best you can get from the Johnston and Murphy Shoe Company. I'm going to present all of these, one to each of you here. And John, why don't you come over here just for a moment? I made a commitment I'd never give one of these leadership relationship development tools to anybody without first showing you how to use it. So, John, step up here so they can see you here. And I'm going to challenge you to watch closely. This really has substance and a real meaning when it's practiced with people that you really know, that you really work with a lot. So if you let me show you how this happens, I'll tell you how it works. Dan sat me down, kneeled at my feet, and began cleaning my shoes with the brush. Now, this works whether the person's got tennis shoes, Nike, Reebok, it will work on any type of shoe. So don't worry about what kind of shoes the person has on. You don't say anything. That's one of the real keys here. And you're in no big hurry as you do this. Then, when you're done, you give them a big hug. At this point, Dan stood up, gave me a big hug, and then turned to address the crowd once again. I find that in the right setting, when you have enough time to do this and to really talk about this can have a powerful impact on people's lives. I believe what this does is it cleans out the closet in our relationships with other people. Such a big part of good leadership is having no unresolved relational conflict with other people. Serving others who follow you really purifies your motives and helps you gain perspective. And it also brings to the surface any impure motives of followers. Anytime you can remove wrong agendas from a leadership relationship, you clear the way for fantastic achievement. When Truett Cathy answered some questions at the end of our time with them, he quoted Ben Franklin as saying, "The handshake of the host affects the taste of the roast." Another way to say it would be that the attitude of the leader affects the atmosphere of the office. If you desire to add value by serving others, you will become a better leader, and your people will achieve more, develop more loyalty, and have a better time getting things done that you ever thought possible. This is the power of the law of addition. Okay, applying the law of addition to your life. Okay. Again, I remind you guys, you can send likes my way if you enjoy me reading this book for you, no matter when you're watching this video, okay, this reading session, because likes and comments help my channel, and also it will help you because YouTube will understand that you enjoy this kind of stuff, and you'll get more videos from me in the future, and you'll get more books and content on YouTube that is about leadership, personal development, personal growth, you know. So yeah, comments and likes and shares, those things help both me as the channel creator and you. So far, there's only one person who likes this session. I am thankful to that one person. Thank you. So there are 3 points for applying the law of addition to your life. The first point is, do you have a servant's attitude when it comes to leadership? Don't be too quick to say yes. Here's how you can tell. Okay, first let me think. Then I'll read the rest. And I invite you guys to do the same, okay? Think for yourselves. Would you answer yes to this question or no? I say no. I don't like this. I don't like altruism, to be honest. Pure altruism is destructive. You know, if you serve others, including strangers, and you are only serving them, it means you have to give away whatever you gain. Like a stranger can value you and give you a tip or something, but then you have to give it away. And that's kind of destructive if we speak of pure Christian altruism, you know. So no, I am not a servant, I'd say. Although funny, my name in Indian, Seva means service. Maybe even it's the same root for English. Yes, Seva, service, you know. And Sevak means servant, but I'm not Indian. I just know that in Indian language, in India, that's what it means. There is even a type of yoga called Seva Yoga, the yoga of service, of serving others. In my mother tongue, in my native language, Armenian, sev means black, ag means eye. So sev ag means black eye. So that's totally different, but still, anyway, just an interesting fact. Yeah. I believe in win-win. Like, I believe in fair exchange. As an objectivist, if you know Ayn Rand, if you know Atlas Shrugged, John Galt, the character from Atlas Shrugged, her best-selling novel, you understand what I'm talking about. So I believe in free market capitalism, in fair exchange, win-win. So I wouldn't say I'm in this serving others mindset. Of course, win-win means I need to give others something they value too. Yeah, I need to get something I value from them, and I need to give them something they value. So my answer to this question is no. What's your answer? You can share in the comment section, and if you disagree with me, if you're a religious person or an altruist, you can give your reasons why you think altruism is good, religion is good, etc., etc. Okay, we can agree to disagree. Okay, and feel free to express yourself as long as it is respectful. I am not attacking you, and you're not attacking me. Okay. Now, let's see what the person says. The author of the book. In situations where you are required to serve others' needs, how do you respond? Do you become impatient? Do you feel resentful? Do you believe that certain tasks are beneath your dignity or position? Okay, some example. If someone asks for money from me on the street, I often reject, I often refuse them because I don't know who that person is. I don't know their values. And in some cases, I can give some money, yeah, but often I'm asking myself, is this person, for instance, is this person a Hamas and Hezbollah supporter? Does this person hate LGBT people, and would this person support, for instance, death penalty against gay people or whatever? So if I don't know your values, I don't want to support and enable you because I could get stabbed by you in the future. Of course, the opposite is also possible. Yeah. And sometimes Barack Obama, I remember he shared this story that he was opposing gay marriage, but then one of his employees, if I'm not mistaken, invited him to a dinner and with his husband and his children. So it was a gay family. And Obama says that he changed his perspective on gay marriage after that dinner. So that's also possible, but it takes context. And inviting someone who is influential, someone with whom you have certain expectations, is not the same thing as supporting someone on the street or on the internet whom you do not know, you have no expectations, etc., etc. Yeah, that's it. Do you believe that certain tasks are beneath your dignity or position? Well, I don't like some tasks. For instance, taking care of elderly people, like those caring houses or what are they called? I'm not sure. It's it's not my thing. I wouldn't like to subject myself to that trauma when those people can be very vulnerable. They can be in great grief because they lost someone. They can be angry and aggressive. I don't want to, because that wouldn't be win-win. Even if I do it for a lot of money, I am losing some of my kind of my dignity. Like if the person is very aggressive, if the person thinks that they are the boss and they can tell you do this, do that in an aggressive tone, etc. So it's not win-win. It's not based on mutual respect. So yes, I would answer this question. Yes, some tasks can be beneath my dignity, or not even position, but my dignity, yeah, as a human being. If you answer yes to any of these questions, then your attitude is not as good as it could be. Well, I disagree with this, obviously. Make it a practice to perform small acts of service for others without seeking credit or recognition for them. Continue until you no longer resent doing them. Okay. Yeah. So I explained my position on this. Yeah, it's a bit different for me. But here's the author. Here's his piece of advice, so you are free to follow him. Point number 2. What do the people closest to you value? Make a list of the most important people in your life, from home, work, church, hobbies, and so on. After making the list, write what each person values most. Then rate yourself on a scale of 1, poorly, to 10, excellently, on how well you relate to that person's values. If you can't articulate what someone values or you score lower than an 8 in relating to that person, spend more time with him or her to improve. Okay. That's an interesting piece of advice. Yeah. And finally, the last point. Point number 3. Make adding value part of your lifestyle. Begin with those closest to you. How could you add value to the people on your list related to what they value? Start doing it. Then do the same with all the people you lead. If there are only a few, add value individually. If you lead large numbers of people, you may have to think of ways to serve groups as well as individuals. Okay. Yeah, that's this the last. I agree with those 2 points. Yeah, the second one and the third one. It makes sense. So this is the end of the 5th law, the law of addition. And I will read the law of addition so that we all can get it again. Leaders add value by serving others. Okay, service. Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's more about fair exchange, not just altruistic service. Okay. Although I know it's a cliche, it's very popular. We serve. We are proud to serve. Serving others, blah blah blah, since 19th century, etc. That's not for me. Okay, the 6th law, the law of solid ground. Trust is the foundation of leadership. This is the law of solid ground. So your solid ground is trust. Yeah, trust is the foundation of leadership. I agree with this. I totally agree with this. Yeah. How important is trust for a leader? It is the most important thing. Trust is the foundation of leadership. It is the glue that holds an organization together. Leaders cannot repeatedly break trust with people and continue to influence them. It just doesn't happen. As a nation, we have seen our trust in leaders go up and down during the last several decades. Watergate certainly took its toll on the American people's confidence in leadership. Trust in President Richard Nixon became so low that he had no choice but to resign. Wow. He had lost his ability to influence. Bill Clinton was a remarkable, gifted leader, but questions of trust undermined his leadership. The corporate scandals of the 90s shook people's confidence in business leadership. Reports of sexual harassment at the military academies undermined confidence in leadership in the armed services. And the incidents of abuse in the Catholic Church disillusioned many people with its leadership. Leaders cannot lose trust and continue to influence others. Trust is the foundation of leadership. That's the law of solid ground. It wasn't the decisions, it was the leadership. I personally learned the power of the law of solid ground when I was the senior pastor of Skyline Church in the San Diego area. In the fall of 1989, oh, that's the year when I was born, we had several new programs starting at the church. Preparations for our exhausting Christmas show season were in full swing, and I was traveling quite a bit as a speaker. It was very hectic. Because I was so busy, I let my choleric nature get the better of me and made a big mistake. I very quickly made three major decisions and implemented them. I changed some components of the Christmas show. Where is it? Yeah. I permanently discontinued our Sunday evening service and I fired a staff member. What's interesting is that none of my three decisions was wrong. The change in the Christmas program was beneficial. The Sunday evening service, though enjoyed by a few of the older members of the congregation, wasn't serving a need that was already being met better elsewhere. And the staff member I fired had to go, and it was important that I not delay in dismissing him. My mistake was the way I made those three decisions. In an organization made up of many volunteers, decisions need to be processed correctly. Because everything in the church was going so well, I thought I could take a shortcut. I was wrong. Ordinarily, I would gather my leaders, cast vision for them, answer questions, and guide them through the issues. Then I would give them time to exert their influence with the next level of leaders in the church. And finally, once the timing was right, I would make a general announcement to everyone, giving plenty of reassurance and encouraging people to be part of the new vision. But I didn't do any of those things, and I should have known better. The result was mistrust. It wasn't long before I began to sense unrest among the people and to hear rumblings. At first, my attitude was that everyone should get over it and move on. But then I realized that the problem wasn't them, it was me. I had been too impatient. On top of that, my attitude wasn't very positive. Not good when you're the guy who writes books on attitude. That's when I realized that I had broken the law of solid ground. For the first time in my career, my people were questioning me. Our relationship of trust was beginning to erode. Mhm. As soon as I realized I was wrong, I publicly apologized to my people and asked for their forgiveness. Your people know when you make mistakes. The real question is whether you're going to fess up. If you do, you can often regain their trust. Fortunately, that's what happened with me. From then on, I was more careful to correctly process decisions. I learned firsthand that when it comes to leadership, you just can't take shortcuts, no matter how long you've been leading your people. Trust is like change in a leader's pocket. Each time you make good leadership decisions, you earn more change. Each time you make poor decisions, you pay out some of your change to the people. All leaders have a certain amount of change in their pocket when they start in a new leadership position. Whatever they do either builds up their change or depletes it. If leaders make one bad decision after another, they keep paying out change. Then one day, after making one last bad decision, they suddenly and irreparably run out of change. It doesn't even matter if the last blunder was big or small. At that point, it's too late. When you're out of change, you're out as the leader. In contrast, leaders who keep making good decisions and keep recording wins for the organization build up change. Then, even if they make a huge blunder, they still have plenty of change left over. That's the kind of history I had at Skyline. For 8 years, I had made good decisions and earned the people's trust. That is why I was able to regain their trust very quickly. Trust is the foundation of leadership. Trust is the foundation of leadership. How does a leader build trust? By consistently exemplifying competence, connection, and character. People will forgive occasional mistakes based on ability, especially if they can see that you're still growing as a leader, and they will give you some time to connect. But they won't trust someone who has slips in character. In that area, even occasional lapses are lethal. All effective leaders know this truth. Craig Weatherup, who retired as founding chairman and CEO of the Pepsi Bottling Group, acknowledges, quote, "People will tolerate honest mistakes. But if you violate their trust, you will find it very difficult to ever regain their confidence. That is one reason that you need to treat trust as your most precious asset. You may fool your boss, but you can never fool your colleagues or subordinates. End of quote. General H. Norman Schwarzkopf points to the significance of character. Quote, leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character, but if you must be without one, be without strategy. End of quote. Character and leadership credibly always go hand in hand. Oh, sorry, character and leadership credibility always go hand in hand. Anthony Harrigan, president of the U.S. Business and Industrial Council, said, quote, this role of character always has been the key factor in the rise and fall of nations, and one can be sure that America is no exception to this rule of history. We won't survive as a country because we are smarter or more sophisticated, but because we are, we hope, stronger inwardly. In short, character is the only effective bulwark against internal and external forces that lead to a country's disintegration or collapse. End of quote. Character makes trust possible, and trust makes leadership possible. That is the law of solid ground. Character communicates, the next subheading. Whenever you lead people, it's as if they consent to take a journey with you. The way that trip is going to turn out is predicted by your character. With good character, the longer the trip is, the better it seems. But if your character is flawed, the longer the trip, the worse it gets. Why? Because no one enjoys spending time with someone he doesn't trust. A person's character quickly communicates many things to others. Here are the most important ones. Character communicates consistency. Leaders without inner strength can't be counted on day after day because their ability to perform changes constantly. NBA great Jerry West commented, you can't get too much done in life if you only work on the days when you feel good. If your people don't know what to expect from you as a leader, at some point they will look to you for leadership. When I think of leaders who epitomize consistency of character, the first person who comes to mind is Billy Graham. Regardless of personal religious beliefs, everybody trusts him. Why? Because he has modeled high character for more than half a century. He lives out his values every day. He never makes a commitment unless he is going to keep it, and he goes out of his way to personify integrity. There was a separate quote on the previous page. To build trust, a leader must exhibit competence, connection, and character. Okay, 3 C's. Yeah, competence, connection, character. Yeah, it's beautiful and it makes sense. Yeah. Character communicates potential. British politician and writer John Morley observed, quote, no man can climb out beyond the limitations of his own character, unquote. Weak character is limiting. Who do you think has the greater potential to achieve great dreams and have a positive impact on others? Someone who is honest, disciplined, and hardworking, or someone who is deceitful, impulsive, and lazy? It sounds obvious when it's phrased that way, doesn't it? Talent alone is never enough. It must be bolstered by character if a person desires to go far. Think about someone like the NFL's Terrell Owens. Few football players have his talent, yet he seems unable to get along with his teammates wherever he plays. If he keeps going on the same track, he will never fulfill his potential as a player. And there's another quote on this page. Character makes trust possible, and trust makes leadership possible. That is the law of solid ground. Poor character is like a time bomb ticking away. It's only a matter of time before it blows up a person's ability to perform and the capacity to lead. Why? Because people with weak character are not trustworthy, and trust is the foundation of leadership. Craig Weatherup explains, "You don't build trust by talking about it. You build trust by achieving results, always with integrity and in a manner that shows real personal regard for the people with whom you work." End of quote. When a leader's character is strong, people trust him, and they trust in his ability to release their potential. That not only gives his followers hope for the future, but it also promotes a strong belief in themselves and their organization. Character communicates respect. When you don't have character within, you can't earn respect without. And respect is absolutely essential for lasting leadership. How do leaders earn respect? By making sound decisions, by admitting their mistakes, and by putting what's best for their followers and the organization ahead of their personal agendas. Years ago, a movie was made about the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment and its colonel, Robert Gould Shaw. The film was called Glory, and though some of its plot was fictionalized, the Civil War story of Shaw's journey with his men and of the respect he earned from them was real. The movie recounted the formation of this unit in the Union Army, which was the first to become composed of African American soldiers. Sorry, to be composed of African American soldiers. Shaw, a white officer, took command of the regiment, oversaw recruiting, selected the white officers, equipped the men, and trained them as soldiers. He drove them hard, knowing that their performance in battle would either vindicate or condemn the value of black people as soldiers and citizens in the minds of many white Northerners. In the process, the soldiers and Shaw earned one another's respect. And a separate quote on the page. How do leaders earn respect? By making sound decisions, by admitting their mistakes, and by putting what's best for their followers and the organization ahead of their personal agendas. A few months after their training was complete, the men of the 54th got the opportunity to prove themselves in the Union assault on Confederate Fort Wagner in South Carolina. Shaw's biographer Russell Duncan said of the attack, quote, "With a final admonition to prove yourselves men, Shaw positioned himself in front and ordered, 'Forward!' Years later, one soldier remembered that the regiment fought hard because Shaw was in front, not behind." End of quote. Almost half of the 600 men from the 54th who fought that day were wounded, captured, or killed. Though they fought valiantly, they were unable to take Fort Wagner, and Shaw, who had courageously led his men to the top of the fort's parapet in the first assault, was killed alongside his men. Shaw's actions on that final day solidified the respect his men already had for him. 2 weeks after the battle, Albanus Fisher, a sergeant in the 54th, said, "I still feel more eager for the struggle than I ever yet have, for I now wish to have revenge for our gallant colonel, Sick, S-I-C, as it was written." End of quote. J. R. Miller once observed, "The only thing that walks backwards and refuses to be buried is the character of a man. That is true. What a man is survives him. It can never be buried." End of quote. Shaw's character, strong to the last, had communicated a level of respect to his men that lived beyond him. A leader's good character builds trust among his followers. But when a leader breaks trust, he forfeits his ability to lead. That's the law of solid ground. And a separate quote on this page. "The only thing that walks back from the tomb with the mourners and refuses to be buried is the character of a man. This is true. What a man is survives him. It can never be buried." The beginning of the end of trust. Earlier, I mentioned Watergate and the various public scandals that have undermined the public's confidence in leaders during the last 30 years. But the event that I believe began to erode the public's faith in the nation's leaders and developed strong skepticism in the country was the war in Vietnam. The actions taken by members of the Johnson administration, the mistakes made by Robert McNamara, and their unwillingness to face and admit those mistakes broke trust with the American people. They violated the law of solid ground, and the United States has been suffering from the repercussions ever since. Vietnam was already at war when President Kennedy and Robert McNamara, his Secretary of Defense, took office in January of 1961. The Vietnam region had been a battleground for decades, and the United States got involved in the mid-50s when President Eisenhower sent a small number of US troops to Vietnam as advisors. When Kennedy took office, he continued Eisenhower's policy. It was always his intention to let the South Vietnamese fight and win their own war, but over time the United States became increasingly involved. Before the war was over, more than 500,000 American troops at one time served in Vietnam. Wow. If you experienced those war years, you may be surprised to know that in the beginning American support for the war was very strong, even as the number of troops being sent overseas rapidly increased and the casualties mounted. By 1966, more than 200,000 Americans had been sent to Vietnam. Yet two-thirds of all Americans surveyed by Lewis Harris believed that Vietnam was the place where the United States should stand and fight communism. And most people expressed the belief that the United States should stay until the fight was finished. First trust, then support. But support eventually eroded. The Vietnam War was being handled very badly. On top of that, our leaders continued the war even after they realized that we couldn't win it. But the worst mistake of all was that McNamara and President Johnson weren't honest with the American people about it. And because trust is the foundation of leadership, it ultimately destroyed the administration's leadership. In his book, In Retrospect, McNamara recounts that he repeatedly minimized American losses and told only half-truths about the war. For example, he says, upon my return to Washington from Saigon on December 21, 1963, I was less than candid when I reported to the press. I said, we observed the results of a very substantial increase in Viet Cong activity. True. But I then added, we reviewed the plans of the South Vietnamese and we have every reason to believe they will be successful. An overstatement at best. End of quote. For a while, nobody questioned McNamara's statements because there was no reason to mistrust the country's leaders. But in time, people recognized that his words and the facts weren't matching up. And that's when the American public began to lose faith. Years later, McNamara admitted his failure. Quote, we of the Kennedy and Johnson administrations who participated in the decisions on Vietnam acted according to what we thought were the principles and traditions of this nation. We made our decisions in light of those values. Yet we were wrong, terribly wrong. End of quote. By then, it was too late. Okay, I think we will stop here for today. Pretty interesting. So, Vietnam War. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. You read a book and you don't expect topics, such as this one to come up, but then they do, and you're like, okay, let's explore this too. And you also learn facts, yeah? So again, today you learned some interesting facts about some business people, ChickfilA, and I think there was a quote from someone from Pepsi, if I'm not mistaken, a former executive director, and the Vietnam War and the mistakes by the presidents. So yeah, this was pretty productive. This book is entitled The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. by John Maxwell. Again, send likes my way because you are taking a lot from these reading sessions, guys. You learn, you enjoy someone doing this for you. Yeah, me with my voice, with my tones. When I quote someone, I change my tone to make it more interesting, interactive, etc. So give it back to me in the forms of likes, comments, and shares. And also, super likes are welcome. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I got my first super like uh, when I was reading this book. So it was very nice, very pleasant. Thank you to the person who sent me that super like. Right now, there are 8 people watching this content, and there's only one like. So don't be greedy, okay? And pay it back. Let's build a win-win relationship, okay? So that I also remain motivated and I continue reading the whole book for you. So I read about maybe 20% of the book so far, and I intend to finish the whole book. So yeah, let's help each other and let's build this, free market capitalist win-win relationship with each other. So subscribe to the channel and see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.